So today we're talking with Tom about a couple of things. And the first one we want to cover in this segment, and the next one we're going to cover later on in the show. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But the first one is identifying and rectifying common exterior paint failures. You know, Tom, there is a multitude of people here in the state that own real estate, and I'm sure that they can definitely benefit from, you know, hearing some of your tips. So identifying and rectifying common exterior paint failures. Shoot.
Sure. Years ago, we realized that in order to set ourselves apart from every other contractor, every other painting contractor in our industry, we had to do something really significant. And what we did was we came up with a 5-year warranty that is unsurpassed in our industry because we're the only company around that's been in business for at least 20 years and offers a 5-year warranty on what they do. In order to do that, we had to really research and kind of come into great knowledge of the various paint failures that are out there, how to rectify them, and really what we had to do to make sure that we wouldn't have to go back and deal with fixing these things for several years to come. There's quite a number of things that people can look out for exterior paint failures. One of the big things that they could look for is mildew. If you've ever looked at a home, and I know you've looked at about 1 billion of them yourself, and if you've ever seen this black speckly stuff kind of on the outside, some people call that mold, but it's actually mildew. Mold is the green stuff that you see, but mildew is something that traditionally feeds off the qualities of certain paints and stains. And it's not so much these days because they used to really feed off the old oil and lead-based paints back several years ago. But as a paint coating breaks down, you'll often notice that the mildew will pick up in certain environmental conditions, can have an influence on the mildew as well in terms of how much of it you actually see on the outside of the house.
Okay. Wow. I didn't know all that. I did not know it fed off cheap paint.
Yeah, it can. The cheaper the paint, the more you're more prone to see this, Emilio.
Nice.
Rectifying it is fairly simple. What you can do is you take a solution of bleach or diluted chlorine, or there's several even more environmentally sensitive products that you can use to really clean it off and just eliminate it, get it off there, make sure the surface that you're looking at is beautiful, number one, and number two, that if you're going to be painting on top of it is clean and you're able to paint without having to worry about going over the mildew. Another thing that we see often is just general peeling. This is often related to moisture kind of sneaking in from certain areas. A lot of times around windowsills, your trim areas where moisture can come into getting behind joints and seams and things of that nature. That's rectified fairly easily by just making sure that all your seams are caulked and making sure that there's no way that moisture can get behind the wood and cause the paint to peel. The way it causes the paint to peel is as the moisture gets behind the wood or whatever substrate it is, and sometimes it may be concrete, maybe some types of metal, but most specifically, you see this issue with wood. Moisture gets behind the wood, then the sun heats up the wood, and the moisture has to force its way out because it evaporates. It forces its way right out through the paint coating, and it causes things to peel.
And you don't want wood rot because wood rot leads to, you know, deterioration of the home and wood and water seepage into the home, and then mold not only on the exterior but the interior and interior.
Correct. Paint's meant to do two things, Emilio. It's meant to beautify whatever it is that you're painting, and it's also meant to protect it. If you do see paint peeling, it can lead to the wood rot that you mentioned. And if you do have rotted wood, that can lead to bigger problems because the wood that you see on the surface, that's just the finished wood. Behind the finished wood, you actually have structural components that kind of hold the bones of your whole house together. And if those start to rot, you can come into some serious problems.
Structural issues, not a good thing to come into.
No, something that can easily be prevented by making sure your paint coating's intact. Okay. Now, there's some other types of paint failures that are out there too. Sometimes you see a lot of fading, not so much on the northern side of the house, but a lot of times on the southern or southeastern sides of the home, the parts that get really weathered, you'll see an accelerated wear within the paint color itself or the sheen of the paint, like how shiny it is. And the way that you avoid that is really when you first paint the house, you got to make sure that you're using a premium finish coat that's less susceptible to fading than others. Again, you mentioned cheap paint, quote unquote. If you're using the cheaper products, they're going to be more prone to premature fading than some of the products that are out there that are more meant to hold up to the sun's UV rays are really what does this. And sun's UV rays and moisture, it's kind of the dangerous tandem there.
I can imagine, obviously, giving an industry-leading 5-year guarantee on your work on the paint, that you've done some serious research on what type of paint is the best and the methods of applying it, etc.
Correct.
So, and there's always a perfect scenario for that.